Welcome back to the 2016-2017 school year. I'm just going to give you a short version of our staff meeting for you to view in the background as you're working in your classrooms. I want to welcome everybody back. We're looking forward to a great year. I'm looking forward to my second year here as the New Hampton Middle School principal, and I think we are in an exciting time right now in education, and I'm looking forward to all the great things we're going to do for our kids and with all of our PBL stuff and just how we're going to make learning fun and relevant for our kids this year. All right. I will be sending you an email with a lot of the new newsletter updates. Also, first day of school, what we're going to be doing. I have shared with you already a folder, 2017-18 staff folder, and you should also have access to the middle school calendar. If there is something that you are missing, please let me know and I will reshare it because sometimes the permissions don't always work very well. Uh, in the office, you're going to have a pile that's going to include your bell schedule, master schedule, quick star forms, envelopes. 7th and 8th grade advisors will have physical waivers for kids. There'll be a procedures piece of paper to help with how we kind of run things here in the middle school. Also, you'll have 2 stacks of schedules. You'll have a substitute stack that you can add to your substitute folders. And also, I'll be sharing with you how to update your substitute folders for the office here in case you are gone. We'll also be including a football game expectations, first day of school plan, intervention plan, past pages for 7th and 8th graders, as well as the handbook for 7th and 8th graders. In the planners this year for 5th and 6th graders and special ed students, the handbook is already in there. Later on, I'll be giving you guys advisory lists, duty coverage, evaluation schedule. This is just a guideline. Last year, I think people thought we were completely locked into the dates that were on the evaluation schedule. It's just to kind of help me stay organized, and if we need to move things around, just talk with me, and we'll move dates because things come up on my end, and I also know things come up on your end, and we just have to be flexible and communicate with each other. I just can't wait till the end of the year and have to do 20 different observations and complete all that paperwork because it does take me quite a while to go through all the standards and make sure that we have all the documentation that we need for your folders. Also, this year we're going to be focusing a lot on our interventions. We've identified a few empowerment students. Our list can continue to change. We want to just make sure that we meet the needs of all of our kids. And just because they are empowerment students doesn't mean that they might not excel in something else. And our kids are fluid. We're always looking at our skills. And we're going to talk more about that during our PD and our development of our intervention a little bit more here at the middle school. Also, you'll have a list of special ed students. Special ed teachers will be getting you accommodations for your classrooms. You have to make sure that you follow those accommodations. Also, this year, all special ed students will be in the classroom. There will not be any pullout of students, special ed students. So they will be included, but we have to make sure that we have proper accommodations and modifications, and the teachers will be working with you, and we have to work together and partner to help make sure that our kids get what they need to be successful. Also, I'll be meeting with you about 504 students. If you have a student that is on a 504 plan, we will go through what our expectations are and how we're going to help meet the needs of that student. We also have several ELL students and ELP students. Those lists will be given out to you as well. And also, we'll be looking at the co-advisor list and kind of modifying how we cover when people are gone or we go on field trips. And again, we will make changes as we need to. It's just a place to start. Don't forget, we have a very strong anti-bullying policy here. If you see students that are not being nice to each other, make sure that we address it. If somebody comes to you and reports that they're being bullied or they're being picked on, make sure that you try to step in and try to help them with the situation. If things are not getting any better or you feel that you need some extra support, please make sure that you contact myself or Mrs. McAvoy so that we can help with that procedure and making sure that all of our kids feel safe here at school and that they're getting along. They are middle school kids and things change from day to day. Also, make sure that you have your tornado and fire drill procedures posted. Put your room number in the bottom corner. Know where we are where you're supposed to go with your students and cover that with your students. We will be doing a tornado and a fire drill very, very soon, as soon as we start the school year. Make sure for lesson plans that you think about what the needs are of your students, and as you're developing your lesson plans, make sure you think about how do I extend the learning for some students if they already get the material, and how do I make sure that I have interventions and I work with those students that need that extra help. How do I group those students, and what does class look like? Make sure that every day that you post your agenda on the board, it's part of our APL strategies, and make sure that at the end of the day we come back to that and that students can assess, at least in their minds, if not a ticket out the door, were they able to reach the goal for the day. As I already said, subfolders, make sure that you get those taken care of. They need to be turned into the office by September 2nd, if not before. Also, don't forget to make sure that you've completed all your online trainings, your right to know, bloodborne pathogens, and ELL training modules. We should have actually 6 ELL training modules completed now. If you don't have all that stuff done, make sure that you get that done and we get it turned into central office as soon as possible. Also, a reminder, we have alarms on our laptops. We don't have bells that ring in our building all the time. There are some set times, which I'll show you a little bit later. But make sure that we keep our students moving. It's a much calmer and a much more relaxed atmosphere when we don't have bells going off all the time. And our students aren't always looking for the clock and when they get out and when's the next bell going to ring. So it's a very positive thing. Also, send me information for Facebook. I will post all the great things that we're doing on Facebook. In addition, I'll be doing some blogging this year as well, and I want to have pictures of the awesome things that you're doing in class so that we can share that with other staff members, community members, and also the school board. Don't forget, as a team, to make sure that you update your homework links online. Parents check this quite a bit, and we want to make sure that we are keeping things up to date to help them out. So when the parent calls or a student is gone, they know exactly where to look so that they're not always trying to bug you, and it's just a good communication tool for us. This year, we also will be having Iowa assessments in March, very similar to what we did last year. We are going to be doing fast training again, the fast assessments, but that is kind of changing and up in the air at the moment. And so we'll have to all work together on how that screening process works and how we use that to identify our kids that need some extra assistance. Just as a reminder, exploratories are pass fail, and we will be having a birthday sign up in the office later on this week, as well as later on as we get rolling here in school. Just a few procedures to talk about and review. Remember, if a student needs to go to the nurse, they must ask. They have to have a pass. So you can write them a pass. They'll come back with a pass. Of course, try to make sure that students are not abusing this. If we see a pattern, we need to address that as well. If a student needs to use the phone, they can certainly come to the office, but we want to try to limit how many students use the phone, and especially they should not be calling for forgotten items. They need to be responsible for their own things. We also want to make sure that we are working on our 5 positive postcards per quarter. Linda Timison is in charge of that. She does a great job with that. Make sure that we get those in as a team and we get those sent out. It's always a good idea to kind of think about maybe some of those challenging students that you might have and try to catch them doing something good and communicate that positive first contact home goes a long way in helping to foster that parent-teacher relationship. Also remember cell phone usage. You can check your phones, but students should not be around. If you have an emergency and you might be expecting a call, please let me know, and we need to make sure that we don't do that in front of students. If there is any kind of custodial or maintenance need, please make sure that you email John. Also talk with me, but John is really good at getting problems fixed very quickly, and I can help out if needed as well. If you have to add anything to our middle school calendar, please talk with Lisa, as well as if you need to book the auditorium or the cafeteria. We've shared out links to be able to view those different calendars. Make sure that you look at them before you email Lisa just to see if it's available or not. That'll save us some time in the office when we go to book. We're not looking for different dates to schedule events. If there's anything wrong with your orders, please talk with Lisa, but we also will then contact Alice to make sure that we have everything, make sure everything got ordered. Um, just again, a friendly reminder, the office is just not a place to hang out. It's a very busy and crazy place at times. Um, Come in, do your business, do what you need to do. If you need to talk with me, stop in, talk, set up a time to talk with me, whatever we need to do. But just don't come in to kind of hang out. And you guys do a great job of getting in and getting your stuff and helping out when needed as well. Just as a reminder, remember field trips, we need to make sure we have transportation. We make sure that the cooks know if there's any kind of changes, who's going, and of course, if you are going on a field trip, you can't wear jeans. Don't let me forget. I'm sure that you won't let me forget that. But we had a lot of fun last year wearing jeans to do different events, and we just always want to make sure that we look professional. If you have to be gone, make sure that you use the ASOP system. Remember, after 6:45, you have to give me a call. My phone number is always in the newsletter. We're also going to do some sign up of numbers and stuff for the office so that it's easier for us to contact you in case we have an emergency as well. Also, don't forget, excuse me, don't forget to wear your name badges. Your new badges are in your cubbies here in the office. It's just a good way for anybody that's different in our building. They know that we're adults here, and they know that they can come and ask you questions if they are lost and need help. Some goals for the year. My goals this year, I always have lots of goals, but the biggest my biggest goal this year is to continue to work on building relationships with students, with parents, with the community, and of course with staff. We want to continue to build a positive culture for all learners in our building and continue to build a positive image of our school and our community. We are innovative. We are doing some awesome things here, and not everybody knows that. And so all too often in education we forget to, or we just don't take the time to toot our own horn. We work really hard to try to do what's best for kids, but not everybody always knows about that. And so we just have to continue to make sure that we publicize what we're doing, but just make sure that we get to know people for who they are. And you never know how different people will help us potentially in the future to help enrich our educational system, and maybe we can use them for different activities throughout the year. My second goal for the year is to improve our interventions, basing our interventions on student need and also tracking our progress. We have done interventions here for several years, and we uh, we did a nice job with our interventions last year, but we got off track a little bit. Our data shows that our students slipped a little bit, and we just need to get back on top of it and work together as a team and make sure that we shore that up, because we want to make sure that we are providing the best education for our kids, and we're stepping in and doing what we need to make sure that they can be successful. Tied with that is I want to make sure that we are improving our math and our literacy scores on Iowa assessments. Even though Iowa assessments is not the all set all be all measurement, it is something that we are held accountable to. And like it or not, we need to make sure that our kids are prepared for that. So that's going to be a big focus of our interventions, looking at those skills and making sure that we know where our kids are. And if we can show the progress through our interventions that kids are doing well, that's just another piece of the puzzle that we can use to help show that our students are improving. Not everybody is great at standardized tests. Another goal this year is to continue to build on our instructional practices, continue to use APL strategies, continue to implement PBL continue to implement PBL into our classrooms, not just in mid-semester, but just to try to make learning more authentic and more engaging for our students. Um, we use formative assessment a lot as tickets out the door and to see where our kids are at. Make sure that we continue to think about how we use that data and the importance of that data to group kids, and how do we communicate that when people are asking about this kind of stuff. Another goal this year is to continue to work on our PBIS system and make it better for our kids. We're going to spend some time in our staff meeting talking about what our system looks like now and maybe some things that we can change and make better. Maybe we need to rotate some activities out of maybe our quarter activities and things like that. So we're looking for input. So make sure that you answer those questions that were sent to you from an email earlier this summer. In addition, we want to make sure that our students are ready for not just the academic stuff, but they are ready to compete in a 21st century environment. They need to be able to be critical thinkers, communicate, collaborate, and be creative. All those things are at the very center of project-based learning. And we need to continue to think about how do we incorporate these things within our classroom as well as within Midmester. And so that's what our goal is going to be as we're working through the year and working on all of our professional development. Taking a look at last year, as you can see from the scores, we're looking at all students, not just the students we had for a whole year, but we're looking at all students that we had in our building. And as you look at these numbers, you can see that in the reading in reading on Iowa assessments, we dropped to 75.4% proficient. Now, some of that is because of some of the programs that we implemented during intervention, and they might not have been as effective as they could have been because our students they kind of got bored with some of them. So that's why it's important this year as we're building our intervention system that we have progress monitoring tools in place. And if something's not working with our kids, we got to try something different. And so hopefully by building this intervention system, we'll be able to improve our reading and our math scores. Math also last year dropped a little bit for proficiency within our building. So we want to get back on track and hold students accountable and make sure that they can see the learning process is fun and be encouraged by getting better every day. Because that's what we want to do. We want all of our students to get better every day. Just like as staff, we want to get better every day. Every day is a new day. Things change from day to day, and we learn a lot, and that's just part of life. And we want to make sure that our kids understand how to be lifelong learners. Taking a look at these are just the students that we had in our building that were here for a full academic year. So they tested with Iowa Assessments 2 years ago, and then they tested with Iowa Assessments last year. And we look at our students that were not proficient. We had 64 students last year in reading that were not proficient, and we had 46 students that were not proficient in math. And so we want to, of course, hone in on these students that are struggling and help build those skills so that they are proficient when we test in the spring as well. My goals for the building this year, when we take a look at Iowa assessments and reading comprehension and math and science, is I want all of our students to excel, and I'd like to see us reach 85% of our students being proficient, if not higher, when we get to the spring Iowa assessments. Just a few dates here. I'm going to share with you some faculty meeting days that I've scheduled. They're on the middle school calendar, looking at October 6th, December 1st, January 19th, and April 13th. Those are going to be times when we're going to meet as a staff in Mrs. Scott's room. Now, I'm not one that likes to have meetings just to have meetings, so we want to make sure that we are prepared and we need those meetings. If there is a possibility that we don't need to meet, just make sure that you check your email and I will communicate that with you as well. Building leadership this year, I'd like to have a meeting once a month or once before each of our PD sessions. It's important for our building to be united and to have all different views expressed. The BLT this year is going to help drive what our professional development looks like and bring together concerns that are happening in our building and hopefully be able to find some solutions to help make our school a much better school. In addition, I see our BLT meeting to have to maybe discuss some of these new try this again here. I see our BLT maybe potentially having to meet to make some decisions about the new building or to bounce some ideas off of each other. So these are the days that I am going to pencil in to meet at 7:30 in the morning. We'll meet in the middle school conference room. And what I'd like to have is I'd like to have representation of every grade as well as representation from the electives. At this point, I'm not going to assign different people to be on the BLT. committee, but I know because I know that you're busy, but it's really important to me that we have voice, and we'll talk more about this at a later date. Um, in addition, just so that you are aware, August 21st is our open house. The work day is from 10:30 to 6 p.m. Lunch will be between 1 and 2. Our open house will be from 4 to 6 here at the middle school, and there'll be a back to school barbecue that all staff will be able to attend from 6 to 6:30. Fifth grade orientation will happen in the auditorium from 5:30 to 6. I would like to have all the fifth grade teachers there, as well as Mrs. Gilbert, Mrs. Rem, and Mrs. McAvoy, just because those are predominantly going to be the teachers that are going to see the fifth graders. This will also include new students to the district. Um, on open house night, make sure that you have your homeroom lifts outside of your door. Um, Make sure that you have all the different forms that are on here, and check off which students come as well. There'll be a stack. You'll want to have a stack, a table tent for each student with their, in the student stack will be the locker schedule, handbook, any opt-out forms. The parent stack, you're going to have the parent letter with forms, health waivers. And then the first day of school, you're going to have your planner, locker schedule, and pass. There'll be 2 copies of the schedule, so that way when students forget to bring their schedule on the first day of school, we still have one ready for them. Remind students that they will report to homeroom on the first day. If there are any issues with lockers, make sure that you communicate that to the office before the first day of school so we can get them fixed overnight so that we are off and running to a good start on the first day of school. Bell schedule, this has not changed from last year, so there'll be a bell at 8 o'clock when the doors will open, 8:10, warning to get to class, 8:15, class starts. 12:25 will be when 5th and 6th grade will begin class, and then 7th and 8th grade will be dismissed at that time. We'll dismiss by homeroom at 2:58, and then we'll do our end of day reteaching. 3:02, the reteaching should be happening, and then make sure by 3:15 we're all headed back in, and we're in our classroom so that we can do. You can check your phone for any kind of messages that are out there. And then 3:18, the bus bell will leave for the elementary kids, and about 3:22 it'll be our middle school bus kids as well. If you're not hearing any of the bells, make sure that we know. We know that there are still some issues on second floor with the hallway speaker. We continue to try to work through this, but we haven't solved it yet. So just make sure that you're listening very carefully. If we, at 7:45, make sure that students enter the building for breakfast only. Even on days when the weather's not nice, we open at 7:45 for breakfast. Otherwise, they are supposed to stay outside until 8 a.m. This is really, really important. Make sure that you take accurate attendance at the beginning of the day especially, and make sure that you take accurate lunch count. We don't want to be a school that loses a student. We count them as here, and they're not here, and then all of a sudden they were taken by somebody, and they've gotten a huge head start, and we're trying to locate this student. Parents want to know where their students are. They trust that their students are here, and if they are not here, we need to call and figure out why that student is not here. So make sure that you take accurate attendance first period, and you let Christy know, as well as you can also let us know. But we will pull that from Christy. But Christy is really the one in the elementary office that needs to know if a student is not here first period. Messages to students, make sure that you check your phone after 3 o'clock. It's required. The office will leave messages by phone. We don't want to call and interrupt your classes. It's your responsibility to make sure that you deliver those messages to each student, and you need to be back in your rooms by 3:18 no matter what. No excuses. If you have to, tape your code at the base of your phone just so you don't forget your number. If you do leave the building, make sure that you take a walkie-talkie. At the end of the year last year, we had several groups that left the building. We needed to find students, and we could not locate them. So if you are going to leave the building, there's a walkie-talkie in the office that you can check out. You can come get my walkie-talkie, or at the very worst, you need to make sure that you stop and see Lisa and leave your cell phone number on her desk so that we know where you are at all times and we can get a hold of you if we need to. First day of school, make sure that you read through the schedule, ask questions prior to Wednesday when the kids are here. We will not have exploratory classes that day, just a rotation for PE in the morning that'll be built in. We'll be teaching PBIS expectations to all of our students, and we'll be all kind of covering for each other to help give you guys breaks as needed. Make sure that students understand where to start school on the second day, no matter make sure the students know where to go at dismissal time as well ahead of time. We want to make sure that, sometimes we get messages in the office that the parents will say, well, they know where to go. Well, that's not the case. Make sure that students know exactly where they're meeting and where they're going at all times after school. Quick Start cards will be coming out that first day of school. We need to promote this. Last year we made, I think, around $86,000. We need to sell a lot of Quick Start cards this year. Um, we use that money for our PBIS stuff as well as we use it for other student activities. So and field trips. So we want to make sure that we promote that. It's a great fundraiser for us, and it's well worth the time for us. Also, remember we are going to have boot camp on the second day of school. All students will be getting their iPads to go home as long as they've paid their fines and they've completed their permissions. As I already said, iPads go home the second day of school no matter what. Make sure that you open up their bag and make sure that everything is in there. Strap, cord, brick, ID, check the screen, make sure that all items work. Make sure that they have a pouch strap. If you're missing anything, make sure that we have a note of that. We've tried to double check all the iPads. Things happen, but we want to make sure that at the end of the year, people don't get charged for something that they've already had because we tell them that you had it on the first day of school, you should have it now. So make sure that all of that is correct. Also shows students how to plug in their iPads correctly so that they're not breaking their cords. A lot of cords were broke last year because students were pulling on the cord and not pulling by the little plug. Also, don't forget that there is an iPad warning list. Make sure that you communicate if a student gets on the iPad warning list with Lisa, as well as the library, Jeannie, and also myself and grade level team. There's a form for each grade level to put that information into. And also remember that if they are violating the iPad policy, that they also get a minor for that as well. As I already said, planners will go home for 5th and 6th grade as well as special ed students. We don't have a lot of extras, so make sure that you stress to students that they need to make sure that they use those for everything and that they don't lose them. Pass pages will go home for 7th and 8th grade students. The passes this first semester or first quarter will be blue, so make sure that those students have those. Otherwise, if they don't have them, they can't leave the room. Late homework, this is a big topic. Make sure that you stress the importance of students completing their homework for your class. We do not want to give zeros in the gradebook. Zeros give students the illusion that it's okay not to do something, and anything that we assign has value. We don't want to just give homework just to give homework. So our philosophy is to make sure that students are getting practice to master skills, but we don't want to have just a lot of busy work. There is a difference when we're looking at homework. If a student is absent, we need to make sure that we do not put that zero in the grade book. Leave it blank or write exempt in there so that you don't forget that student needs to do that homework. I know it's tough when students are gone to make sure that they get everything that they need, but make sure that you do everything possible to help make sure that that student gets that practice, because if it's not important for them to make up the homework, then maybe it's not that important for us to assign. You are responsible for tracking down your own kids if they are not completing their homework. Steal them during study hall. We have to continue to create the system that it's not okay not to do your homework. If a student's not doing their homework, we're going to make them do their homework, whether that's taking them from study hall, whether that's stealing them in the morning, keeping them after school, taking them during reteaching time. spending lunch with you to get the homework done. We need to make sure that we continue to stress the importance of the practice that we're doing in our classes so that students can see that they're going to be successful on their summative tests as well. No matter what, it's very, very important that we communicate with parents if students are not completing their homework. And the worst case scenario, we just do not want to see a student having 5 late assignments at the very end of the quarter or the end of the semester and trying to get them caught up. We want to try to intervene before then and get them back on track as soon as possible. If you do give a detention, make sure that you fill out a major form and you've contacted that parent as well. This is, let's try this again here. If a student has done a behavior that results in a major, most of the time a detention is what the consequence is. Fill that out on a major form and turn that into the office like you've always done in the past. I would like to have you make a contact with the parent just so that they know what happened, because you had the firsthand experience of what occurred in the class, and you can answer questions easier than I can. And then make sure if they say when that student can do their detention that you mark that on the form as well. I will also call home and follow up just because it's important for parents to know that the principal is also involved in the process and does not take major behaviors as an acceptable as being acceptable. We need to continue to have common study hall expectations. We have students that have one teacher one day and a different teacher another day, so it's important to have these consistent expectations. Make sure at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of the class period that you list the homework on the board. All students need to be seated when the bell rings. Students should not be playing games on their iPads or board games. They need to be working on homework or reading. If they need to go see another teacher, they need to make sure that they come with a pass to go see that teacher beforehand. All students need to be checked back into the study hall by the last 5 minutes of class. Students should only go to the Media Center one time per week. Make sure that you have a sign-up sheet for the students to sign in and out of study hall. And also, I would like to have, and I need to have study hall teachers check probably about 5 iPads each day just to make sure students are meeting the iPad expectations, and we can catch any students that are trying to be sneaky and maybe not doing the things that they're supposed to during study hall as well as during the school day. Hallway duty. It's my expectation that every day during passing time as well as before and after school that we're out in the hallway, we're mingling with students, we're talking with them, we're spreading out, we're interacting. The more presence we have, the fewer problems that we're going to have. And so here you're going to see kind of your assigned locations of where you should be during these times, and for the most part they're really the same, except I apologize, Mrs. Egamo, I did not get your name changed here, and I'll change that here in a second. Just make sure that we're not huddling together as much as we kind of did last year. We want to be spreading out, and it's okay to talk with your colleagues because you don't see them all the time, but make sure that we're still walking around and interacting with our students as well. APL strategies are also going to be very important again this year. It's one of our district expectations that teachers are using APL strategies, especially focusing on making sure that your agenda is posted for the day as well as what the objectives are. It's just good practice for students to know when they walk in that they know exactly what they're going to be doing for the day. All classes should start with a bell ringer. The bell ringer can consist of reviewing materials from previous class periods, working on maybe some of the standardized test practices that we're going to talk about as a staff as well. But the bell ringer needs to be something to get the kids actively engaged and get them up and going and ready for class. Make sure that we continue to use on the clock and interaction sequences as well. And if you don't understand these or you don't know how to implement them, make sure that you talk to myself or talk with the instructional coaches or other teachers to try to see it in action. Mrs. Kaiser Kemp is also making some APL strategy videos that you can use to help review some of these strategies. Until you do them and you partner with somebody and you continue to do them, they don't always make sense, become part of your tool bag of tricks. And so it's important that we do that. We do these strategies with fidelity, and we continue to work on them, because the more repetition we have, the better we get at them. I've already talked a little bit about evaluation. I will share the evaluation schedule with you about who's going to be evaluated and when. It's just something that has to be done according to the master contract, but the real goal of evaluation is to try to get better. And we all have areas in which we can improve on. We all have areas that are strengths. And so the evaluation purpose is not to be a gotcha, but it's to look at how you're interacting with students, and how your lessons are prepared, and all the different standards of the Iowa teaching standards. It's also to be used as a way to have conversations and to improve, and that's what the importance of an evaluation is just to start having those conversations about what we can do better, and try to figure out how can we do these more, how can we get better every day. When you look at the evaluation criteria, there's going to be a skilled and a basic and an unsatisfactory criteria for each of the different standards. Um, the majority of the time, staff will most likely be in the basic area, but there are going to be areas in which you are really, really skilled at, and that's where the skilled would come in. If there are any areas that are unsatisfactory, we'll work together and try to figure out a plan together to try to help meet those deficiencies. But I know from my observations this past year that as a general staff, we do an awesome job with our kids, and we're all very, very good teachers, and we really want what's best for kids. And so um, evaluations are just something that need to be done to help us get better every day. And I want to look at it as a growth tool. We talk about the growth mindset all the time, and that's what this is. And it's not something that's busy work or anything like that. It has meaning, and we need to make sure that it's a meaningful tool for everybody um, to improve. Just a few other quick general reminders here. There are copy machines available in the office, as well as there is a copy machine up in 316. There is a hidden key for room 316. Ask your colleagues if you don't know where that is. Anything that needs to be laminated, please make sure that you leave that here in the office with Lisa and tell her exactly what you need, or tell me, and then if approved, I will send it to Christy, and she'll get it done as soon as possible, and I'll get it back to you. If you need to do color printing, make sure that you see me. I can print, or also Lisa, and we will help with whatever you need. Jeremiah is in charge of all of our computer stuff, as well as printing privileges. So if there are any kind of issues, make sure that you also can email him as well. At the beginning of the day, every day we start. I'm sorry. At the beginning of the day on Mondays, we start with a PBIS announcement. We start with a pledge. We'll continue to do that again this year. Make sure that you show respect for the flag. And sometimes some of our students may not want to stand and be recognized or recognize the flag, and that's okay. If you know that a student is not wanting to participate, and it's kind of, if it's against their values or their beliefs, have a conversation with them. Tell them the first day that if you are not going to participate in the pledge, that's okay. We just need to have a conversation about that, and then we need to make sure that we put that into our sub plans as well. Every week I will create a newsletter. I'll send it out to you. Make sure that you read it. Lisa's not here to answer questions upon questions. If there's something that I forgot, or you do have a question about, please see me. Drop me a note, and I'll make sure that I communicate that out to everybody as well. Things change on a daily basis, and so sometimes what might be published might change, and I'll make sure that I do my very best to communicate that with you as well. We have a pretty fluid schedule with our teams. You have the ability to change the schedule if needed. Make sure if you do change your schedule for the day, though, that you put it in the schedule changes document, so that staff, not only in this building but other buildings that are shared, know what the plan is, so we make sure we have coverage at all times. If you don't read the newsletter or you don't ask, then don't complain about it. You know, it's really easy to focus on negative sometimes, and we want this to be a positive work environment. And so we want to cut out as much negativity as we possibly can. Um, as I already said earlier, we don't always toot our own horns as much as we should. We are doing great things in this building, and every week I am going to be posting a blog for not just teachers, but also for community members, school board members. And we're starting a blog as an administration to showcase all the great things that we're doing. So if there's something that's happening in your classroom, take a picture of it, send it to me. I'm not everywhere all the time, but I would like to be able to feature what's going on in your classroom in some of these blogs. So please do that. Send it to me. I have to have it published every Thursday, so the sooner the better. And then I'll just kind of keep a running tally of all that and get it out to the public. Budget items. We always are limited with funds, and it's all tied to school, to the number of students that we have, and legislation continues to change, and we are in a pretty tough economy right now. We want to make sure that we're spending money for the things that we need for our students, and we want to make sure that they're really, really important. For the most part, we've pretty much completed all of our orders for the year. We should have everything coming in. But if there is something that has popped up that you really need, have a conversation with me, and I'll see if I can help out with some of the building budget funds that I have as well. But this should only be if necessary, and I understand that things happen, things break, and we can work from there. Again, purchase orders, this is a big one. Make sure that if you are buying something, the school does not want to reimburse staff because it creates problems with the chain of command, and our auditors don't like that. So make sure that if you do have to buy something, check with me to make sure that we can reimburse you. Tax, because we're a school, we are tax exempt, and things just get really messy with receipts and creates extra chaos if we reimburse staff. So, as a general rule of thumb, we don't do that. If there's something that a student needs, we want to make sure that we're not charging students for that. If it's instructionally needed, we want to make sure that they have that and see me, and I can make sure that if they're missing pencils or things like that, we can provide that because we have some of those things for students that might be in need. We are not going to be painting any more rooms or ordering any more furniture here for the next couple of years. That's going to be part of our building project. If there is some maintenance things, some painting of walls and things like that, that would happen, of course, if needed. But for the general rule of thumb, we're not really painting any classrooms like we had in the past. Um, Counseling and empowerment. Make sure that you communicate with Mrs. McAvoy. If you're noticing a bunch of noticing a student's getting a bunch of referrals, talk about it at team. Try to come up with a plan. Involve Mrs. McAvoy and myself to try to figure out how we can help fit that student's need into our PBIS system and help create an intervention program that's going to help get them back on track. If you're noticing students are getting escalated a lot or having a hard time managing themselves in the classroom, talk with your team. See if maybe one of your team members has something that they do that works really well with that student, and share ideas and involve Mrs. McAvoy and myself if you need some more suggestions or you need help. And it's perfectly fine if you have to remove a student. Make sure that you call the office and let me know what's going on so that I can come and get that student or make sure that they get here. Students have bad days some days. It happens. We all have bad days. But we don't want this to interrupt class very frequently. Also, if there's any kind of personal or social or hygiene issues, talk with Mrs. McAvoy. Um, Mrs. Bear is in charge of our empowerment. If you notice that a student's struggling with homework completion or some other academic deficiencies, and you've tried different interventions within your class first, and you met as a team and you've tried different things, and the student is still struggling, have conversations with Mrs. Bear. She's a great resource for other ideas, and she'll start being able to try to work with some of those students as well, either before or after school or during intervention. You have to have at least a couple of specific strategies that you've tried beyond what you would do for a normal student. And we also want to communicate that home with parents if that student is struggling. before you contact Zoe, myself, or Joanne. Partners in education. Um, every class has a partner in ed. Try to do a couple of activities with them during the year. We kind of fell off on this last year. I think it's kind of been something that's kind of been falling off before last year as well. We want to make sure that we are involved in the community and in different things so they can see our students in a positive way. So try to utilize them as much as possible. If your partner in education is not working out for you, then let's have a conversation. Let's see if we can improve that. Maybe find somebody else that might be a better partner for you. But the goal is to get our students out in the community and see the community in a different light, and have the community see our students in a different light as well. Our PBIS team has several representatives. We have Mrs. Gerst, Mrs. Snyders, Mrs. Faffel, Mrs. McAvoy, Mrs. Adams, Mrs. Rude, Mrs. Feldman, and Mrs. Redmond, all on our PBIS team, as well as myself. So if there is a PBIS concern, please feel free to go to any of these representatives, and also talk in your teams about any kind of concerns and any kind of solutions or things that we should do as a group to try to help keep our PBIS program exciting for students. And how do we communicate that with parents and things like that? Again, our philosophy is with PBIS is that this is a positive approach. This is our middle school approach. We all have to buy into this, and we all have to work together on this. Our PBIS team is made up of 8 different people. We all have different views on how to do things. There's no I in team, and so we are blending our ideas together in a collective effort. And if we say that we're going to do something, we have to all do things. We all have to be on board with them. As I already said, PBIS is a focus on the positive. Let's not let negative control you or your classroom. We want to make sure that we are saying positive things to kids a lot more than anything that might be perceived as negative. The more positive praise that we give students for doing the things that they should be doing, the better our students are going to be, and the better culture and climate we're going to have in our building. Anytime that we have early outs, make sure that you communicate with students about where they're going to be going. The last 10 minutes of class before we get out, all students will report to homeroom. We'll do announcements at that time, and then we'll be dismissed through the intercom. A few quick legal reminders. Remember that your laptop is school issued, and it's not personal property. It's actually public property. And be careful in what you communicate with email and things like that. The BOE requires us, if there's a violation of FERPA and things like that, to report that, and that could be a problem with your license, and it could get revoked, and we don't want to go down there. So all emails, again, are a matter of public record. Try to keep the negative out of emails, and make sure that you're just doing the things that you need to be doing. Be careful on what you post on social media. Make sure that it's appropriate. We want to make sure that people in our community see the school as a positive place and a great thing within our community. If you have to send out text messages to students or athletes, make sure that you use remind.com. If you have any questions about that, talk with one of your team members or come see myself as well. Big change this year when it comes to special education. There will be no more pullout this year in special ed. There's been a big law change, and so all of our students will be included in all of our classes. There's going to be full inclusion. And so what that means is it's going to look a little different in our classes than it has in the past. There's going to be a lot of different para support for some of the students that in the past have had pull-out classes. And so during the class, you might have a student that would start the class period with you. After you've taught some of the common skills, they might go to Mrs. Gilbert then for some additional SDI time or some additional support, and the para would go with them as well. It's just a different way of educating all of our students, and it's going to take some time for us to continue to work out best and most effective practices. So we just all have to work together. We have to be positive with each other, and we have to make sure that we're doing whatever we need to do to help support our students. Students will need different accommodations and modifications of the program. Not all of our students will be able to complete everything at the same level, and so we will have to differentiate as well. But all students need to be exposed to the same curriculum. I will need some help as well as we get going here to help with homecoming. Homecoming is, I believe it's September 15th. So if you're interested, I'll have a sign up sheet there that we can start having some ideas. It's going to come up fast with Quickstar and everything else going on. Lisa will have a list of birthdays for birthday treats. If you are interested, please sign up down in the office. We have the plates, the cups, the napkins, the forks, the spoons, the the drinks, everything there for you. You just would have to bring the treats, and it's just kind of a fun way to recognize staff members on their birthday or just surprise them. And you know, everybody loves food, so it's a good time. So if you're interested in doing that, please make sure that you sign up with Lisa. Some of the biggest changes for this year, PBIS is going to continue to evolve and to look a little bit different. During our reteaching time this year, we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on, I'm sorry, not reteaching. Our interventions this year, we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on skills, and we're going to be building that together as we go. We're going to be continuing to work on our reteaching practices at the end of the day, tied to PBIS. We're going to continue with project-based learning in our mid-mester. Mid-mester this year is actually going to be in the spring, and I'll provide a little bit more information about that at the end of our next in-service. TLC, we are in our second year, and so that's a positive thing. We're going to do a lot of fun and exciting things for teachers this year to see other strategies or see others in action. We're going to do some learning labs this year, and it's going to be it's an excellent time to be a teacher in the state of Iowa. Probably the biggest change when we talk about assessment and accountability is this year we're not going to be doing Skills Iowa. We test our kids a lot. We test them too much, and so we need to use our classroom data to help guide what students need for interventions. And so that's what we're going to do this year. I'll talk more about that as well. But the very end here, let's make this a fun place to work. I've enjoyed my first year here at New Hampton. I look forward to my second year at New Hampton. We have an awesome community. We have awesome opportunities right now building a new school. We have excellent community support. We have great parents. We have great students. We need to focus on the positive, and we need to promote the positive. And that's going to be a lot of fun this year, and I look forward to doing that with you. So let's do all the little things. Let's take care of each other. Let's not let the little things bother us and drag us down. Let's build those positive relationships with everybody, and let's recognize and celebrate the success. Let's have an awesome year. Thank you for listening to this long video.